sometimes you sort of offer the music out as some sort of fragile bloom into a hostile space, and you're like, please like me, you know, don't heckle in the middle of this one, you know. It's like church music in an inappropriate setting or something. Sometimes it is very sensitive, or there's a lot of sort of emotion to it, and a couple of my recent records have been very emotional and sort of inward, and so it's harder to, you know, take those songs out to the crowd in a way. You need them to be on your side, whereas obviously it's often a bit more challenging than that live. These songs are very outward, they're very direct, they've got a bit more pace and a bit more attitude, and it's fantastic to have that in the engine room sort of thing, all this different gearing. But it's also the way that I'm feeling. I'm looking the world squarely in the eye, and I just can't wait to sing out all this stuff. And I've already seen it have an effect. We've done a few shows already. I can see the music registering. It's very direct. So, yeah, that's very exciting. Well, I think I've had a break as well. You know, I was a bit toured out. So I'm full of beans in that sense. It's like I really have I'm longing to just play the shows. I mean, so, yeah, it's great having this record and what it's got on it. I think it shines a light on more facets of my writing and my head, you know, than previous records, which were pitched sort of in a certain place. You know, I've been in quite an inward zone. Well, I was post-fame and post a few deaths, you know, and the strain in my private life and the strain of just being away all the time and having young children and all this stuff going on and trying to work out how best to deal with it all. It seemed to send me inward, but I've suddenly, yeah, I've freed up, and it's like, it reminds me a bit of my first record. This record, it's very divergent. There's not one song that typifies it. There's lots of different types of stuff. But in terms of the ideas and the that it presents and the wit of some of it, I think it's far more reflective of me as a whole. Because people talk to me sometimes and I don't know what they're expecting, but they can't believe I've got ideas, or I give a fuck, or I might punch someone in the face. It's like, well, of course, I'm a human, you know. Are you not offended? It's like, life's hard to swallow, isn't it, most of the time? It's like you can't move an inch without the salesman pitching you on some fucking bullshit they've dreamt up. It's like it's a constant struggle just to stand still, not be overcome by a sense of loathing. And yet it's completely wonderful as well. I don't know. So I guess, yeah, I'm delighted with this record in that respect. I feel that it's a work of greater maturity in terms of the writing. And I do think there are songs on there that are very like things I've written before, like Jackdaw, sort of ballads that people can probably latch on to immediately. And that, well, all the songs on there I've written something sort of similar-ish to, but it's just better constructed. And then there are things like Nemesis on there, which I think sort of transcend anything I've managed to do so far. I think they're much more elegant constructs than what I've tried to say the same thing, but I've not said it as well, which is basically that's all we're up to, is saying the same thing in different ways. I've had a few records with producers and various entanglements with them. Working with Marius on Slow Motion was a very successful project. At that point, I just bought this big studio. I really needed a little help in learning how to use it or to think within the scope that it offered me. So I'd just basically been making records in a very sort of bedroom way. And that's how I'd found my sound, finally, or learnt to relax in the studio. A producer gives you objectivity. You know, he's not actually playing the music. He's sitting there listening. And obviously, whenever you get someone like that, it can be very, very helpful in all things. So, and he supposedly helps people to express themselves or relax within the whole thing, or try something they wouldn't have tried, or has ideas. I mean, you know, some artists are pretty clueless and they need somebody to do everything for them. And then you get, but I think pretty much all the interesting artists will have very strong ideas about how it should be. But some people aren't very practical, or they've not got very good people skills. It's a polite way of saying they're rude, fucking twats. And they need somebody who can sort of get everybody working together. So, they think that there's some sort of divine presence that's going to come in and sort of create magic. So it's like, anyway, sometimes it feels like you need some external influence, some objectivity, and a little bit of magic from somewhere, a little bit of guidance. Well, I'd heard Marius, he'd made lots of interesting records and quite grand. He was obviously quite sort of baroque in his sort of soundscapes, and that was completely running contrary to the way that I would normally do things. So it made for an interesting combination. But this time round, I think if the magic's happening in the band, then that's what you're looking for the producer to create. And then I knew exactly what to do with this. It was right up my alley. Funnily enough, it was my music. But I mean, you didn't have to do much with it, because we were getting a live take which has a certain sort of thing to it. Everything glues together in a certain way when you record like that. And you don't need to lash loads of stuff on it to make it sound convincing. It is convincing. It's the real thing. It sounds good just as the naked truth of what it is. So overdubs and all that, it was obvious where the big gestures needed to be made production-wise. But I guess I gained a lot of confidence slowly over the years about my own opinion and being able to express it. I think the big problems I had in the studio when I was younger was I couldn't really articulate what I wanted. I couldn't speak drummer language or engineer language. I didn't know what all the knobs did on the desk or whatever, but slowly I've gleaned little bits of important information and terminology down the years, and I can just about express myself without pissing everybody off. So it's often people will get pissed off when you're not trying to piss them off, you're just trying to explain what it is you want, but all they know is you don't like what they're doing right now. It might be that they're only 7 inches away from the thing you actually do want, but you can't quite get them there. I'm wary of these phantom thoughts because really I know I'm not going to get a chance to do anything for a while. So you think, wouldn't it be good if? Or, yeah, I've got all that stuff going on all the time. I sort of take notes, and usually I stop writing completely when I'm on the road, but for some reason I haven't this time. So I'm still, the word part of my brain hasn't turned off. So I've got a couple of songs I'm sort of finishing. So I guess there's quite a lot of stuff left over from this mammoth recording session we did over the last few years, and a few unresolved things too, and I'm trying to resolve some of those, and I'm having, so it's always ongoing, and I think that seems to be the way that it is. It just keeps coming.